There has literally never been a better time to start growing your own food, but some people hold back because they're afraid that they can't grow food that actually will satisfy them or fill up their tummies. You get snacks from the garden, tomatoes and cucumbers are fun to eat, but do they really fill you up? Well, I can tell you absolutely yes, that food from your garden will fill you up. To that end, let's talk about 5 different vegetables that are easy to grow in your garden that are going to fill you up. Let's get right into it with my number one favorite, potatoes. Potatoes have about 77 calories in a two-third of a cup serving. So they're packed with calories. And Western diets, Americans, Canadians, and folks like that, we eat a lot of potatoes. We eat about 2 pounds of potatoes per week. Now, in that 2 pound figure, you're going to find pretty much all the potatoes that a person will eat. Like that includes baked potatoes, mashed potatoes, french fries, all those kinds of things. But it's a very popular vegetable, and if you've ever had a nice helping of a shepherd's pie, you know that the mashed potatoes on top of that are very filling. So I love to grow potatoes for my family. I love to grow the majority of what we eat. I am able to almost plant everything that we eat. Sorry, I'm a little bit distracted because my arm hurts. I was weeding this weekend my garlic patch, and I have one of those little weeders, and I was going to town, and I really hurt my shoulder. So if I'm holding this mic weird, that's why. So for every pound of potatoes I grow, I get about 10 pounds in return in the form of my crop. So I plant 10 pounds of seed potatoes and I get about 100 pounds back at the end of the season. So that's a great return on investment. When they're properly cured, those potatoes will last the rest of the season or until I eat them all or my family eats them all. So you just make sure that you cure them properly after the season, after the foliage has died back and you start to dig them out. You cure them and then put them in your root cellar or garage or somewhere cool and dark and dry, and you're going to have those potatoes for a long time. So that's my number one favorite. My next favorite is corn. Corn has about 86 calories per two-thirds of a cup serving. And so that's a really nice amount of calories. That's going to keep you filled up. Again, corn is a very popular dish. Now, I grow two kinds of corn in my garden. I grow sweet corn and I also grow a dent corn or a flint corn. They're basically called by the same name. And the sweet corn is the corn that you all know and love from the grocery store. It is, or your farmer's market. Shuck it, boil it maybe a little bit or roast it. It's so super sweet. You eat it fresh. You can also freeze it to eat it later. But it's so delicious. And that's what you know as sweet corn. It definitely has its own season in the summer. And when the sweet corn all comes in, it's like a 2 to 3 week period. And there's lots of sweet corn and it's delicious. The other type of corn is probably the corn that we are most familiar with in all of the other kinds of foods that we eat, like corn tortillas, tortilla chips, grits, masa, corn flour, things like that. So I also grow those. Those are not picked fresh. When you grow those, that I call it a dent corn because when it dries, each little kernel has a little dent in it. When I grow that, I will grow it, let it stay on the stalk, and let it dry. And then you, at the end of the season, take it off, and then you shuck it, or you peel the dry kernels off with your thumb. It's kind of fun. I have a lot of childhood memories of doing that with my grandparents and my parents. Kind of just like taking the little corn kernels, like pushing them off, flicking them off with my thumb. That and picking green beans. Lots of memories from those. So. Um, those are the two kinds of corn that I grow. I suggest you do the same. Those will absolutely fill you up for sure. I have a stone grinding attachment for my KitchenAid, so I plan on actually grinding some of my own cornmeal myself from the dent corn that we grow this year. So I'm super excited about that, and I'll keep you updated on the progress. Now, I mentioned picking green beans with my grandparents. That brings me to my third very filling vegetable that you can grow. Now, beans have anywhere between 70 calories and all the way up to 130 calories in a two-thirds of a cup serving, depending on how you eat them. So if you're eating them fresh in green bean form, it's going to be closer to that 70 calorie mark per serving. But if you're eating them in the dried bean form, they're going to be closer to 130 calories, and they're packed with protein and fiber. They're so, so good for you, and a very, very economical way to get protein and a really filling meal in your tummy. Sorry, my throat is really dry. So there are lots of ways to eat green beans. Like I said, you could eat them fresh, you can pick them fresh, blanch them and freeze them for later. You can can them as green beans, or you can leave them on the vine and let them dry and eat them as dried beans. So I have one particular variety that I love to do this with, and it's called the Cherokee Trail of Tears bean. And the reason that I love it so much is because I can get fresh eating green beans out of this. And if I leave them on the vine to dry, I can then come back, harvest them, shell them, and then just save the dried beans and put them in things like soup. So that is the Cherokee Trail of Tears bean. It's a pole bean, which is another advantage because you can grow them very close to each plant, very close together, and each plant has a huge yield. So Cherokee Trail of Tears bean, and then I love there's a French filet bean called the Kalima French filet bean that I love for fresh eating. It's very sweet. So I highly recommend that as well. The next one, I think we're on number 4, are peas, English peas or snap peas. Or actually, I think this is probably English peas here. So English peas they have about 81 calories per 2/3 of a cup serving, and they're easy to grow. I like them because they don't require a lot of space. They're very similar to pole beans. They don't get as tall as pole beans, but you can put each pea plant like 3 inches from the next pea plant because they grow straight up. And so that is really good for containers. If all you can do is grow on your front or back porch, or you have a very small space, maybe you have a trellis and down the middle of a 4x8 bed, you could put a ton of peas on either side of that trellis and really go to town and have a bunch of really tasty stuff. These peas can be picked really young and eaten raw in salads, or you can let them grow to full size, shell them, and then cook them later. So that's another high calorie, fulfilling vegetable from your garden that you can grow. And the last of the 5, and this is probably my favorite just because of how versatile it is. This is winter squash. So I'm including things like butternut, honey nut squash in this. And these guys have about 40 to 45 calories per 2/3 of a cup. So not quite as many calories as the others, but they are so good for saving, for storage. So they last a really long time. They're called winter squash. I love the butternut. There's Georgia candy roaster. There's all kinds of different squash. And you pick these and they store really well anywhere that you store them. And you can eat off of these all winter long. And I love to like stuff them with a little bit of cooked sausage and do like a sausage hash with them when they're cooked. I just split a butternut squash, scoop out the seeds, put olive oil, salt, and pepper, and roast it. And it's so, so good. You can make really filling soups out of that as well. So there's just a lot of things you can do with food out of your garden. And yes, it can be filling. So, yep, you've got the greens, the salads, the burger fixings, and all of those things that you are familiar with. But you've also got a lot of these that are going to be filling and are going to be something great for you and your family. So if you haven't started growing your own food, now is absolutely the time. Stick around on the channel and we'll be growing together. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I know you could be anywhere and you chose to be with me, and I really appreciate it. Bye for now.